Hey, gang, and welcome back to the Movie Club Emporium. And we are at a turning point in our Christmas horror holiday movies because we are hit the fourth week of our Silent Night, Deadly Night binge. And again, as I said, um, all the reviews were recorded separately. However, all the movies were watched one after the other. So if my attitude seems to have dipped, no, that's why. Because I am doing these as the movies are going. Now, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 4, Initiation. This is where, as Part 3 is the lowest of lows of this franchise, this is a bit of an upswing only because of the WTF factor. This time around, a big claim to fame is Brian Yuzna, producer of Reanimator and director of cult classic Society, which I have a wild, crazy Society story that isn't really appropriate here, but maybe someday on a live stream, wink, wink, you can hear us talk about it. But if you know that movie, you know. And it has like a bunch of kind of big name classic genre actors. Reggie Bannister, Clint Howard, Maud Adams from James Bond is in this one. And while the first three movies essentially are slasher films around Christmas time, the first two involving someone dressed as Santa doing the slashing. The third one with a weird robot Frankenstein with his brain exposed. Killer doing the same. And by the way, here's a weird fact for this movie. Clint Howard plays a character named Ricky. I do not believe it is the same Ricky. And that gets even weirder as we go along. But now we are fully in supernatural world. We are out of the summer or winter slasher business because this one has witches. Yeah. So we have our character who she is she's a journalist, investigative journalist, and she's trying to figure out what the story behind a woman who was on fire, jumped off the roof of a building. And in doing so, discovers a cult of Egyptian goddess Isis worshipping witches who use bugs. So if you ever wanted to see Clint Howard being eaten alive by giant maggots, thanks, Brian Yuzna. This is it. This one's insane because you're out of nowhere. We're just witches, man. Although I will say, that this one, again, the WTF factor, the ick factor, if you want goopy, let me tell you, in the late 80s, Brian Yuzna gave you ookie and gave you gooey. Him and Screaming Mad George gave you the goo. And that sounds terrible. I apologize for that, but he does. And this movie's no exception. There's weird bugs. We're lighting people on fire. There's all kinds of gross stuff happening. It's weird that with the in Supernatural they always talked about how gross witches are, and this movie definitely is the play on that because they're just gross witches. It's a real, and they're like all like Maud Adams is like the leader, but they find this investigative journalist and they want to make her their new queen, which is like, I don't know, like you barely even prove yourself as a regular witch, now you'd be the queen witch. That doesn't make any sense. Essentially, this one is, again, not good at all. But to go from slasher, 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 witches, and I can't even tell you if this movie takes place at Christmas. So what are we doing? So for that one alone, reason alone, it's interesting. I can tell you it's probably a lot more fun if you know the podcast We Hate Movies, because they do a commentary track for this. Um, honestly, anything with Clint Howard is going to get a bump in its score for me because I love that weird little man. But he does get it gross in this movie. Uh, but yeah, again, this movie outside of the WTF factor is still not a good movie, but it's just witches, man. It's like that weird. I don't know. It's just a weird turn that I don't understand, but it does it. And guess what? At least with the last movie in this franchise, we kind of go back to Christmas, and yet somehow we get even weirder. So next week we are ending 2025 with how about said the Howling? I've done that franchise too. Ooh, that was a long nasty set. You know, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 5, The Toy Maker, and if this is the most gooey weird one of the sequels. That one is probably the most blatantly like insane, like on purpose, like purposefully insane. If that makes sense, and it will next week, so don't miss it. Also, at the end of this month, once we're through the holidays, Nick and I are doing our third annual After Christmas Office Christmas Party live. So you're gonna want to hang out with that. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Who knows what can happen? We've had special guests in the past. We've had breaking news. We've given away the entire release schedule for the next year. You never know what can happen, so make sure you're here for that. Make sure you're here every Sunday for our reviews that go up every single week at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure you're here because Nick's post-theater clarities that go up every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Nick is taking you along with his Regal Pass and taking you to the theater every single week. So make sure you're there for that. And the best way to do that is to subscribe and click the bell. We are at 60 some odd subscribers. Our goal is to break 100 in 2026, so make sure you're there for that. We want you there. Make sure you're joining us next week for the finale, our live office Christmas party you're not going to miss. And I'm going to tell you right now, the stuff we've got planned for our live streams in 2026, it's going to be a lot of fun, and you are going to want to be there. So make sure you join. And then I will see you next week as we wrap up this ultimate, like, mathematically terrible franchise with the, quite frankly, the most insane entry in the franchise. They saved the most crazy for last. And until next week,